Hello and welcome to the Record Rangers podcast with myself, Scott McDermott and Andy Newport. We're in the beautiful Austrian city of Graz, Andy, on our travels again for Rangers' next Europa League instalment. Obviously the campaign got off to a bad start last week, got a Genk, but we need to start picking up points. Starting with tomorrow night, you were at Livingston on Sunday, really got a last minute winner for a much needed domestic win. What can you expect for this Rangers team tomorrow night? It's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I think most Rangers fans sitting round three sides of the ground and stood there would have thought they just watched their team put in their best 45-minute performance. But this is the thing about this Rangers team, from one half to the next, you don't really know how they're going to perform, and they came back out for the second half and totally undid pretty much all their good work that they did in the first half, and they really probably should have been 3-4-0 up. You know, the chances they had, missed penalty, goal chalked off. They probably deserved to have a handsome lead at half time, but come back out for the second half, they utterly just, we stopped doing all the things that had got them in such a commanding position. They stopped passing the ball with intensity, they stopped pressing, they stopped running as hard, really, and it was no surprise to see Livingston come back into the game and really for a good 20 minutes dominate the game, deservedly get themselves level through Mo Salah, and then obviously the final stages, it's the Alamo, isn't it? They're throwing everything they can and eventually they get the winner. But as we spoke about earlier on, Scott, I mean, it hasn't seemed to have located the fans any. They're still protests, are still chanting against Russell Martin.
No, it was brutal at the weekend. I was in holiday, I've only watched it on TV, but I mean, when that winning goal goes in, there's that there should be that moment of ecstasy, really, in terms of the supporters, but the immediate thoughts as soon as the goal went in was just to get back on the manager's case again, which does seem a bit unfair despite the kind of disastrous start they've had domestically. I agree with you in terms of the weekend. I thought in the first half, now I've been really critical of the actual football the Rangers have played, or a lack of football that they've played under the manager since he came in, and especially that game last week in Europe. I thought the first half particularly was so poor for a footballing point of view, and obviously the red card kind of changed the dynamic of the game. So I need to give them a bit of credit because, like you, I thought the first 45 minutes against Livingston, I could see signs of what they were trying to do. Now, listen, with all due respect to Livingston, it's Livingston have just been promoted to the Scottish Premiership. However, football in terms of Rangers getting out for the back, creating openings, creating chances, creating space for people to play in terms of their kind of passing movements, I thought it was really good. And as you say, they should have been 3 up. No, the penalty's got to go in. Majowski has to score. It was a 3-0 half, but that typifies this Rangers team. It was only one. They take their foot off the gas again in the second half, and they end up nearly in danger of losing the game. And towards the end, listen, they did well getting the winner, and by God, they needed it. But it was a riot towards the end. I mean, it was literally throwing bodies on, hoping for the best, hoping something falls to him. And again,
just thought about James Starr there playing 3 different formative positions. He's throwing Chermiti on all everybody. Majowski. It just looks a bit of a mess. It's a scrambled win on the end. For me, I think the thing that will encourage Russell Martin is that first 45 minutes is the speed they move the ball at.
Yep.
It's one-touch stuff. You can see there's definitely prescribed movements in it. They're playing. It's almost routine set plays. It's the move that leads to Majowski one. They come out, they play the winger, they come back out again into midfield, come back in, they go out, in and out 2 or 3 times, just trying to probe, open up Livingston, but it's all done. So it's one time. So it's first time passes, one touch. And that's when it looks good. But so often with this team is that it's labelled it's too many touches in the ball, and that's when it slows down and teams are so become so easy for them to defend against.
It's see the short passing at the back, Andy, that fans have slaughtered for the start. Well, quite rightly, a lot of the time there was an actual purpose to it at the weekend because they drew Livingston in, and it wasn't overdone. No, it was 2 or 3, 4 passes tops, draw Livy in, and then bang, they created the space to get out. that was a big difference. And if they continued doing that in the second half, you go to think that they would have won the game handsomely. But for whatever reason, it was hard for me watching the TV. But I don't know when I don't know what Livingston changed or whether it was just Rangers, as I say, taking the foot off the gas the second half. But it was a completely different game, and most Jekyll and Hyde performances for half are happening far too often. That's why Russell Martin's in the trouble that he's in.
The difference being is that usually it's at half time, he gets them in, he gives them a roll, and he makes a couple of changes, and that's when he finally gets almost usually at that point they're a little bit down. That's the difference being this was that they actually started the game. I think it took maybe 10 minutes just to adjust to the pitch, especially a lot of the guys who hadn't played in that kind of surface before. But after that, everything he would have wanted to see in a Rangers performance was there. And obviously we spoke about, we're talking the way over here, that, you know, had they went on and won that 4-0, would you have still seen the kind of fan protests that we saw at the end of the game when they scrambled that win? No, I don't think he would. I think most fans would have been happy. I think the fact that they've had to scramble to a 94th minute winner
against that girl
is why that the fans have reacted with, again, this anger. They remain to be convinced by this manager. And I was speaking about this last night. What does it take for these kind of protests to die down? I think we both agree that it's only going to be sustained 6 run of wins, big wins as well. And even then, if he has a stutter in amongst that, he might find this kind of thing coming back.
The big question last night, we were discussing it with a few other boys, was, is it even possible for Russell Martin to turn these fans around, or has it literally just gone too far? I actually do think it's possible. I know that it's brutal at the minute, and it seems unlikely that he's going to find a way back into the good books, but this is football. Things change. Things can change so quickly. I think it's a slim chance at the moment because of the kind of form they're in. But I do believe he can turn the fans around. I think he probably thinks he can as well. He'll know that it's going to be difficult. But as you say, the only thing that will do it now, and it might seem unfair to put that demand, but it is Rangers. I think the only thing that turns it around now is literally a run of 10, 12 wins, or at least going unbeaten. And as you say, there has to be big wins in there, so that'll include the League Cup semi-final against Celtic at Hampden. I mean, that would be massive for it if they could win that, because it's a huge win against your rivals. It also gives you a massive chance of winning a trophy to getting to the final. If he does that, and it's a massive if he was to go on a 12-15 game unbeaten run, loads of wins, football improving, and a massive victory against Celtic in there, I think it probably would change. I don't think you would see the chance. I say it'll take a lot to turn the supporters around. Most of them have made their minds up, but I don't think it's always not lost yet for Russell Martin. I don't think.
Yeah, but I think we both agree that any further slip-ups, certainly between tomorrow night's game, the game at Falkirk the next weekend, then that international break becomes a very perilous time for him if he suffers another slipper. But it gives the board the chance to draw breath, to get together, to have a wee discussion and see where they're going, and maybe perhaps have a conversation about whether or not Russell Martin really is the guy. That for me why this week is so crucial. Yeah, he needs to get another 2 wins just to calm any nerves that may be brewing in the wardrobe.
He does, but what I would say is, first of all, I think tomorrow night's game will be really tough here. The Austrian Graz, Austrian champions, sitting second top of the league just now. They've had a decent start season. It's not going to be easy coming here. So, but would that be a decent result? I think any point away from home, the Europa League's probably a decent result. The bigger picture, I don't know if you'll agree, I just think, and this is for the owners, not so much Russell Martin, but maybe for the owners, and maybe even for the supporters, how much does Europe really matter this season? They've almost done their jobs in a sense by getting to the group phase of the Europa League. Now I know that's a terrible thing to say for a club Rangers size, stature, and especially with their history in this competition, their recent history in this competition, but no, it was always going to be a transitional season with a new manager and a total revamp in the squad. And given the start they've made, for me anyway, I think fans, domestic was all that matters to me. This season, think most supporters you speak to this season, the number one priority was to compete domestically for a title for these cups. They've had a nightmare start. There were so many points behind already. It's going to be tough for them. But I still think that's a priority. Of course, they need to show up in Europe and they need to just good performances. They certainly can't afford a repeat of what happened in Bruges. The night we were there, but it's total humiliation. And like I say, tomorrow night they have to turn up. They have to put a decent performance in, and they need to try and get a result. But honestly, domestically, that win on Sunday was crucial. I think they need to do the same at Falkirk at the weekend. I think after the international break, they're at home to Dundee United. It's another massive game. You just need to back up these domestic wins and somehow try and get themselves up the table, competing at the top of the league.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you might have spoke about this start season. You might have written a column about it. Just they need to, as you say, prioritise the league this season. And at that point, it was because you didn't want to be, damaging your league prospects. Now you probably need to write off the Europa League to have any chance of getting back into the Premiership, because I think if they start picking up injuries, if they start picking up,
I was going to say, I don't think the squad's strong enough to compete at the top level on two accounts with the league and the Europa.
The one thing I would caution against, though, is that if you remember back to the season when the Champions League, when the season, they took a lot of heavy defeats with that 3 years ago. They had bled into the league form, and I think that would be the concern, that obviously you're going to have to play guys in Europe and also in the league who've not got, as you say, not got a squad big enough strong enough to be able to face or play two different starting 11s. But if they were to get some big defeats and some heavy punishment, as we saw in Bruges, then that can have an impact in the league form. So the Gio Broncos team, that was probably what really was the catalyst for his demise as Rangers manager. They just get so many humiliating defeats in Europe against Liverpool, Napoli, Ajax, and he just never recovered from that. And so I think a caution that you do still have to. You can't allow yourself to go out and get pasted to these 7 remaining games. They have to put up a sort of level of fight. But I agree with you. I think the priority this season has to be getting that league form back to them. Sorry.
You're saying about squad strength there. I mean, just a small example. I look at Migoma at left back. I think we were both surprised they didn't sign another left back for the window closed. But I mean, essentially, he's only left back they've got. And I know Cornelius can go and play at left back. I know Tavernier and Aarons are both.
Got a bit loath to boot Cornelius, given the way he started.
Exactly, and it means you'd also need to put Jiger back in, who's not a great start. So that's just a small example of you can't just play Migoma at every game. I mean, what is he, 19, 20? A boy coming in on loan. So I think that's where they've struggled squad-wise. In terms of the team, what do you think he's going to do tomorrow night? I mean, does the back four pick itself? Diomandis suspended, so does the mid stay the same as well? I mean, they're talking about trying to rotate if he can, but he's not got that many options now, is it?
I mean, Aaron's has won out the weekend. His confidence, you can imagine, would have certainly taken a wee bump up given how low it was after his episode in Bruges. I mean, I just wonder if he comes back in. I mean, you've written a piece for the website yesterday, it's in the paper today, about the importance of James Tavernier on. Is there a sense that, given how still important he is, that again you maybe need to give him a break out and try and reintegrate Max Arms back at the team, given he was the guy that was signed. You would imagine to be the starting right back this season. A guy with 100 Premier League appearances under his belt. I mean, he's, I don't imagine he had any thoughts about coming up here to sit on the bench for the season. So is that an option? Do you think is maybe one that he perhaps looks at, is try to just gently reintegrate him back in?
It is. I mean, he can shuffle things a bit. I mean, you're saying you wouldn't want to move Cornelius to left back, but again, with Migoma being so young, you give him a break. Do you move Cornelius out? You could actually play Tavernier at centre back, but he's actually looked really good. He was there towards the end of the game at the weekend. I think he'd be fine beside John Souttar, and that would allow you to play Aarons at right back. I just get the feeling the manager will not want to change things too much. I mean, he knows it's a bit of a sticky wicket. Just where he's got that win at the weekend, but
continuity.
Confidence will be boosted by that, and especially defensively, you don't want to change it too much. So I think he'll probably be the same back four. In midfield, you've got to think Barron and Raskin will probably play.
Liam Andy being
Liam Andy suspended. Asgard's one for me. I don't know what you think. I mean, I think Asgard has to be producing more. I mean, he's in a run of games now, and his preferred position is number 10. I mean, he can have no complaints there. And as much as he's neat and tidy on the ball at times, Rangers signed this boy to go and get assists and goals and create and anything and be a match winner for them. I'm not seeing any of that for Asgard. And I get that it takes time for any new player to come in, but he's not a kid. He's a full international. Oh, he's got loads of games behind him in England, albeit at a lower level. I think he has to produce more. Whether he'll start again, if he just wants to go with the same team, then obviously will. I think Rothwell in a big cushion for to get back in the team, even though it was a pretty unimpressive start for him in his Rangers career. The last few times he's come on as a sub, it's looked a bit more lively.
Certainly more in the advanced area, which I think is key to it as well.
Because that's the position we thought he was coming in on. So Rothwell's pushing for a start. Does Mikey Moore come in for Antman?
I think there's another position. The two right wingers, I don't think either of them have particularly impressed so far. And obviously the left hand side, Jerry Gisama got off to an electric start, but again has found himself a bit bogged down recently. I thought he had moments, especially the first half. But I think he's, of the new signings, he's probably the one that can probably hold his head up the most so far this season. But again, I don't think he's been bang at a level every week. I think he's had ups and downs, but the whole team has. I mean, for me, you're just talking about Asgard there. This is a Rangers, the complaint you can throw about this Rangers team is that they take all the risks at the back when they're building out, and no risk at the top end of the pitch, and that goes for somebody like Asgard or
I want to see Asgard in the more shots and more, trying to thread passes. Even if they don't come off, try things, try shots, try and slip players in, try a ball over the top to split us.
It's the same with the Wales for me as well. Like Moore, listen, this might be they're operating under instruction, but for me, Moore and Antman both are coming in off the wing too much, driving into side and clogging up in midfield. Maybe that might be a tactic to work on it in order to get Tavernier down the outside and open up space for him, the way that Steven Gerrard used to do. We had this sort of turn, in very tens, but for me, it's just not working. I think I'd be looking for something like Antman to get down the line an awful lot more and put crosses in. There's a guy that 15 assists and after the ball last season.
I thought he was a little bit good.
I mean, and obviously gets an assist at the weekend with that hook crossbar for Tavernier, but I just thought that was the only thing he really contributed in the whole game. It wasn't a surprise to me that you'd take them through an hour mark. So, listen, I think there's some man will expect to see him for more for guys at the front end of the pitch. I'd like to see them be more adventurous, you say.
Yep. What about up front? Majowski pretty much is the jersey, but Russell Martin left him out for the Genk game. I felt as if he was specifically keeping Majowski for Livingston because he's the guy that's got a great record in the Scottish Premiership. Probably the guy he can rely on, even though they're saying he should have scored at the weekend. Does he keep Majowski in for tomorrow night, or does he give Chermiti another chance?
I think this maybe comes back to the point earlier on about you guys fit for league duty, you prioritising the league. If that's the case, I think you have to keep Majowski fit for Saturday, Sunday against Bolton. I think you give Chermiti a run, try to play him in. Listen, they've spent a huge amount of money on him, and I must admit, I'm yet to see any signs that he's worth that kind of sums. So far, I thought he was really, really poor last week against Genk. Kick out from a lad. Was he 6'4", big, strong, physical? Did you see any signs of him wanting to get involved in the sort of the ugly side of the game? Didn't really see him holding the ball up. Didn't see him really competing with centre backs.
Yeah, he has got pace. It might suit him slightly better if you're playing a bit more counter.
We've spoken subject so often, but I would really expected a lot more for the guy coming away at £1 for that kind of money. So, but yeah, if it's maybe just a case that he's played so little football. He was at Everton. We all know it's 2 years since he last scored a senior goal. Is this maybe a chance just to try and play him in? And you might have to play him through persist with him a wee bit, especially when he's trying to just get himself up to speed with how the team operates. if that's the case, then yeah, I think you maybe need to give him time. But I mean, it's not always say with these guys when they have to come on such big transfer fees, it's never their fault, and he will feel that added burden of the fact he's club's second highest ever transfer fee. But the only way to allow him to show his best is to give him a run of games. But I still think Majowski's the better option up front.
I agree with you. I think Majowski's the number one striker at the moment, but I almost think you have to start Chermiti in his Europa League because whether you like it or no, or whether you think he's worth the money or no, Rangers have signed him a long-term contract. He's a young player who you're trying to develop and trying to improve. So he needs game. He's got to play. And as I said earlier on, I think the league is the priority, and that's what you would keep Majowski for if you're going to go with one up front. So I agree with you. Like, Chermiti's shown me nothing yet to suggest he's worth that kind of fee. I'm not even seeing these signs of really what he's all about and what he's going to bring to the team apart from that pace, and that might suit them. As I said, tomorrow night, they might play a bit more counter attack. They might maybe having a striker like him who's going to want to run in behind. I'll suit them. I'll suit the game a bit more. But I just think you have to play him. He has to find some kind of rhythm. He has to get used to playing in this team because Rangers are going to need him the next. No, we're not just talking this season. We're talking beyond this season. So he has to start playing. And I would keep. I think the bigger game is Falkirk at the weekend, and that's what I keep Majowski for. In terms of predictions, apart from the fact we're predicting it's going to be Baltic at this game, I'm
getting a blanket out already.
Hey, why not? They shots though. But -2. What do you think scoreline wise that you going for?
I went one each.
8 minutes.
There we go. You're that full seldom differ as this. I went one each. Yeah, I just think I think the fact to get that late winner, yeah, I mean you can say they scraped a 2-1 win against a newly promoted team, or if you look at it, I think the way that Russell Martin looked at it is the scenes in the dressing room afterwards would have shown a team that was really united. I always remember Sir Alex Ferguson talking about last minute winners at Old Trafford and how great they were for a dressing room and how to bring a team together, and I think that's the way Russell Martin will be looking at this. I'm hoping that this can, in a weird way, can be the spark that sort of gives the team a wee bit of confidence to kick on. And as I say, I don't think a one night straw here would be a bad result at all. I think that would be something that would allow them to maintain some forward kind of momentum, some progression, and allow them to sort of win that game on Sunday where a really close up Brexit.
I agree with us, and I think it'll be a tough game, and I don't think a point would be a bad result for them. I'm hoping they'll have learnt to the Bruges experience and they'll not be anywhere near as open or as naive as they were that night. And I'm not saying Sturm Graz on the same level as Bruges, but if you leave yourself vulnerable in Europe, those nights and those results can happen. I don't think it will be like that again. I think they'll have a bit more about them. You see it as a game, I see them coming over here and winning, probably not, just because I don't think the form is such that we can go away from home in Europe and get a victory. But if they can come and put in a decent performance, build on, as I say, the stuff that they showed in the first half, especially at the weekend, then they can get a semi-positive result. And I don't think a draw would do them any harm coming back, to hopefully another domestic win at the weekend. So we'll see how it goes. Thanks for joining us. We'll be at the press conference later on and again tomorrow night. So keep track on Record Sport for all the news and Rangers. See you soon.